Good morning. This is Cecil in Blues. Thank you for joining me for this Final Fantasy XIV video. A special live letter aired from the stage of the Frankfurt Fan Festival overnight. It was largely a Q&A session similar to the previous Fan Festival live letters. To keep this video fairly short, I'm going to summarize the information that came out of the answers instead of reading through each question and answer line by line. If you are interested in seeing the whole presentation, you can check out the Twitch VOD, and I'm sure at some point it will make its way to YouTube, but I will put a link in the video description to the Twitch VOD for now. Alright, let's get into the info, such as it was. Additional creation options, such as extra faces or facial features, create a burden for the graphics team and generate additional data load on the server, so expansion is incredibly unlikely. A butt slider is possible, but it would stretch textures of the armor as it wraps around this expanded posterior. It is a popular feature, so Yoshida said that they may look at implementing it. The number of outdoor furnishings is not being increased, only the indoor limits will be expanded in Stormblood. Yoshida dodged a question on the pet action bar by saying only, "You are the masters, you control your pets." Theatrhythm is an unlikely addition to the Gold Saucer for a number of reasons, but Yoshida did not rule it out, and he said that he would speak to the producer of Theatrhythm to see what could be done. There was a joke about selling arcade tokens on the Mog Station. I'm sure it was just a joke. I can't imagine they'd ever do something like that. Certainly not. Some haircuts are restricted to certain races to preserve their racial identity, but some currently restricted haircuts will eventually be available to everyone. This question also asked about the hempen set of cosmetic gear, which currently looks very different on depending on what race and gender you are. Yoshida thought this question was about having small clothes visible through your armor, as though it were a separate layer, and suggested possibly an additional armor slot for small clothes, and suggested that could be possible if that's what players want. This is not the question that was asked, and it's likely due to a translation error or just a misunderstanding, and that's the problem with doing live translations sometimes. So for people who are looking to a better answer to that question, I feel your pain, I guess. Moving on, a system could be designed to allow players to access solo trials from the main story and job quests, but it would take significant work to build the interface and ensure that it listed only the trials that had previously been completed. The original answer provided for this question was, "I have a great idea. Make a new character." Which, was a cute joke. But jokes aside, I wouldn't rule out this feature, but I also wouldn't expect it anytime soon. On the subject of top-end difficulty, Yoshida seemed frustrated. Players complained that the final coil of Bahamut was too easy, and then complained that the Alexander Gorditas series was too difficult. He jokingly said that he can't trust anyone anymore. He went on to say that content difficulty is a constant conversation as they develop new content, and that the team feels that Alexander the creator was in the right place for the Final Fantasy XIV community as a whole, and it is the challenge they would like to strive for in the Omega series. But they recognize that some players seek a greater challenge, so they would like to introduce something special for players who are able to clear the final wing of Savage Raids. He didn't provide any additional details. He didn't suggest on whether it would be an extra super hard boss, or if there would be an entire new difficulty tier. He also didn't suggest what kind of reward structure they would provide. I assume they're not going to add an extra tier of gear. We already had way too much gear bloat in Heaven's Ward, so I hope they don't add an extra tier entirely. Or maybe what they could do, I'm just spitballing, is they could provide higher drop rates. But anyway, moving on, Yoshida suggested that Creel's outfit would be coming to the Mog Station in the future, but only if everyone agreed to buy it. So it's kind of like when Tinkerbell was dying in Peter Pan. Everyone has to clap their hands and believe in paying $20 for digital Kigurumis. Hildebrand will return in Stormblood. He confirmed that, but Yoshida did not confirm that there would be boss trials like there were in A Realm Reborn. It kind of sounded like the team is bored of Hildebrand and would like to take a break from him, but recognize that he's a very popular character and that players want to see him again. So we will see him in Stormblood. A DPS meter question was asked, and Yoshida said, after trying to run away from it, he said again that it was not something that the team was currently going to be working on, and he didn't rule it out. His concerns are that players will use it as a tool to bully other players, and he dismissed the idea of it only measuring your personal performance because it would lead to fights where players are demanding to see links of proof of other players' DPS and just arguing with each other. Yoshida used the opportunity to talk about how there was a large performance gap in Heavensward between the lower end poor DPS players and high DPS players, and the team is hoping to reduce that gap in Stormblood with some of the combat changes that are coming. He went on to say, and this is a quote I believe, a translated quote at the very least, "We might be implementing a sort of system that allows you to implement a certain something." Oh wait, hold on. I think I misspoke. Let me try that again. I'm going to start over. Here we go. "We might be implementing a sort of system that allows you to attempt a certain something and then retry it if you don't do it right." I've said too much. I can't say much, but we don't think that what we want to do has ever been done in an MMO before. It is super cryptic. I'm not really sure what that means. I'm not sure how you could attempt a certain something or what a certain something would be. Like it's not like if you mess up your rotation, you could fix it and then they could backpedal on that. I don't know. Maybe they're implementing some sort of way to structure when you're working a rotation and you're getting ahead of your button presses. Maybe they're doing something with ability queuing. I don't know. It's probably best to move on and not think too much about it. They are working on a PS4 Pro patch, but they wanted to make sure to assuade anyone on the PS4 who's worried that they'll be abandoned. He wants the PS4 experience to be consistent. They're not going to ignore PS4 players in favor of Pro players. And this next question, I don't do a lot of gardening in Final Fantasy XIV, so you'll have to forgive me if I misunderstand the meaning to this answer, but it sounds like if you want to leave a flower in one of your flower pots indefinitely and just use it as decoration because you think it's pretty, you will be able to do that in the near future. I assume that currently they die? I don't know. I don't do the flowering stuff in housing. I don't do a lot of housing stuff. I have a house. I live in a house. But someone else decorates it. So maybe they know what's going on. Anyway, players have requested umbrellas, and Yoshida confirmed that this was something they were working on for the Mog Station. And he said that it would be a flying mount, and the only question they had was whether it should fly straight or spin. Then the team is working on expanding the cross-server party finder to include Alliance raids and the Palace of the Dead. Yoshida said that they are closer to getting Alliance raids to work correctly and should have it ready for the return of Ivalice raid. He didn't provide a timetable, but we can expect 4.1 somewhere in October or November, so we may not see cross-server party finder for Palace of the Dead until after that, which would be probably not until 2018. Yoshida did also confirm that they were working on cross-server friends lists, link shells, FCs, and /tells, but was unable to provide a timetable for any of those features. That was everything from the Q&A. Yoshida moved on to a list of the content that we can expect in patch 3.55, which has been broken into 3.55a and 3.55b. 3.55a releases on February 28th, which is a week from now or so. Importantly, this is not the story patch. I think originally it was advertised that it was going to be that 3.52 was going to be this intermediate patch, and then 3.55 would be the story. 3.55 is the intermediary patch, and 3.56 will have the story. That's a lot of numbers. I'm sorry, it's confusing. Let's move on. 3.55 will include the final step of the animal weapon chain, and should be fairly easy. This is just a victory lap. It will increase the item level, but it should be easy. The custom deliveries content will be added. This is the wondrous tales for crafters and gatherers. It stars the even smaller Makote child that you may have seen around Idleshire, who has the even more confusing first name, which I believe is possibly Zoli. The Proto-Ultima battle, which was featured at Fan Festival, will be added. It's a 24-man trial. It's going to be fleshed out, be a little bit harder, and it will drop item level 270 accessories, which is cool. This is similar to what they did with Odin back at the end of A Realm Reborn, except for Odin didn't drop anything, so there'll be a reason to run this trial. 270 accessories are nice. It will save you time, possibly, from upgrading your tokens. You can use your tokens to upgrade your left side now to 270, which is dyeable, so probably better overall. They didn't list here whether or not there would be limitations on how much you can get on a weekly basis. There probably will be at the start. The new feast maps will be added. There's one new map, and it's different depending on if you are in a 8-person match or a 16-person match. The Sophia and Zervon mount drops, those are going to be increased, so that's a little bit easier to finish your meta achievement. The Garo gear will be added to the Calamity Salvager, so you don't have to keep it all in your bags anymore. If you'll just be able to buy it to use it for glamours or whatever. The Titus and Una gear that was part of the digital rewards for participating in the fan festivals, whether you bought your digital ticket or you attended in person. Those will be available for redemption. And then the exploratory missions, they had a major bug in it, and that has caused them to have to push back its release. It should appear in a follow-up patch 3.55b that should arrive in mid-March. The Gold Saucer versions of the Garo gear also will not be available in this patch. It will be added in 3.56 along with the conclusion of the Heavensward main story. There will be additional small patches after 3.56, which they didn't give a timetable for here. I believe we can probably expect that in April. But there will be additional small patches leading up to the release of Stormblood, but Yoshida suggested that if you get bored, you could just, make some more anima weapons. Thrilling. They wrapped up with some awards, including the longest in credits in any MMO, clocking in at 1 hour and 38 minutes. Most original pieces of music in any game with 384 original compositions, and Final Fantasy has been officially recognized as the most prolific role-playing game series with a total of 87 titles. Alright, that wraps up everything that I know about the live letter. I thank you for tuning in for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button. You can subscribe to the channel. I'll be covering more stuff over the weeks and months as we approach Stormblood. I thank you again for tuning in, and I hope that you have a great day.